Hello there.
All right.
How are you?
I'm incredibly well. It's kind of weird, by the way, because I know you as like the OG lefty on YouTube.
Oh, thank you. Well, I
So
appreciate that.
I think what oh my word, and he's sorry, Kirsty Winters is here as well.
Yeah, hi.
Oh
How
my
you
god.
doing?
Sorry, I'm a bit squeeing at the moment now.
So you're
Because like I
famous,
say,
Kristi.
I've known you or well, watched you on YouTube for such a very, very long time.
It's okay not to say and remind us how old we are. That's
I
okay.
know, I know.
I'm
We're
joking.
all. I know. I literally just got back drinking today. It's sort of my last day of work. And honestly, there's like there's the older end of the office and there's the younger end of the office, and yeah, they they can drink, and you're like, why can't I drink like that anymore?
Because
And then you
Get it.
try to catch up, and then it all ends very, very badly. So yeah,
well, we'll go easy on you then. Yes. So for everyone who might not be aware, you are BowlerHatMan. Yeah.
yes, I am. Yep.
Tell us about yourself.
Um, well, I'm BowlerHatMan. I'm a member of the Labour Party. So I sort of affiliate myself with. Um, I'm a lefty. I like talking about really weird minutiae in politics. Um, just how I do things, really.
Yes. And I would advise people go and check out the BowlerHatMan channel. Even if you don't necessarily always agree, it's I think interesting analysis, if nothing else.
Oh well, that actually means quite a lot coming from you,
Oh
Kevin.
well, thank you very much.
So no, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because
So
one of the things I do, and I will sort of freely admit it, when it comes to sort of discussing trans issues, it's not my wheelhouse. I will admit that, and I always say to people, go to your channel. So I think you do a lot more, especially from like a UK perspective. You do that so well from
oh,
that
thank you.
perspective. So
Well, I am still
I do send people your way.
the reigning trans ally of the year, albeit that it wasn't given out for the last 2 years. But that's not the point. I'm still the reigning champion of that.
It was only ever given out once.
It was only ever given out
Yeah.
once, but it means a lot to me. And that, I mean, technically, if no one else beats you, you're that champion forever, right?
That's
the way it
true.
works.
Yeah,
Winner stays on, so to speak.
that's true.
Right. So, I saw your conversation you had with No Justice MTG the other day, which I thought was really interesting, and one of the kind of sticking points you had between yourself and Helena was the idea of whether people on the left should vote for the Labour Party or possibly look for some other kind of third option. And I thought it would be sort of interesting from my perspective, because I'm much more on Helena's side on this one. If you could try and convince me or whatever, or convince the audience that voting Labour is a worthwhile endeavour at the next general election.
Yep, sure. Like I say, I'm up for that. That's no problem. So yeah.
Yeah.
So where to begin? Well, let's start with the moral one. Morally, under this sort of current government that we've got, of course, that's the Conservative government. Pretty much no one is having a good time, shall we say?
Yeah.
And minorities, people from poor working class backgrounds, probably taking the hardest hit out of all these 13 years. You've seen child poverty skyrocket. You've seen NHS waiting times also skyrocket, which has probably killed people. Well, in fact, it probably has killed people.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
You've seen the benefit cuts also kill people as they've been forced into sort of more and more destitution. This has in turn put more children into sort of poverty. And yet, on the last Labour government, we were getting rid of child poverty. The NHS waiting times were going down. It might not have been good for for everyone, but ask yourselves this: was it better, or were you in a better off place in sort of 20 13 was it? Yes, 2013, when they first sort of came in. Are you better off
2010?
2010, yeah, 2010. Are you better off pre-2010, or are you better off now? And the answer for the large number of people is no. It's not. It's only gotten considerably worse. And that has just been the continuing state of this Tory government, just knowing that there are problems and just continuing not to do anything about it. The Levelling Up white paper is a fantastic read, because the first 2 chapters of it are like, holy shit, they get this. Why on earth are they all of a sudden saying in these 2 chapters that they understand the problems that the North is facing, they understand that they haven't been investing in this, they understand the areas where they need to do it, and then you get to the money page, the page where, of course, our current Prime Minister was, of course, the Treasury, and his sticky fingers have been all over it, slashing money here and there, and basically not even giving anything at all. And, of course, the ultimate insult, especially to the North at the moment, has come at the fact of the, quote, Northern Network, or as I like to call them, the Northern Network suggestions, where they're going to take money that was meant for building HS2, which would have been a massive improvement to our rail network, and instead spending that money filling London's potholes.
Yeah.
It's
grim, and I will absolutely agree with pretty much everything you said there, I think. But this is the kind of problem I have, is that I didn't ask you about why are the Tories bad, and I didn't ask you about whether Gordon Brown's government or Tony Blair's government was good. I specifically asked you whether we should vote for Keir Starmer's Labour Party, because the problem I have isn't that the things you say there are incorrect, but fundamentally, is Starmer actually going to change any of those things?
Well, that's why I started off with that, because I think it's fair for people to understand that might not be from the UK. This is where we are at.
Yeah.
I fail to see where people like yourself and other people just make this argument of that if we elect Labour and they get into government, that it's going to get worse. I don't see that, especially when you look at things like the new deal for new workers, which is going to get rid of 0-hour contracts. It's going to improve benefits. So the second you start in on your new job, you are getting workers' benefits right from day one. Like, how is that not going to help and improve people's lives?
Yeah. I would not make the argument that things will get worse necessarily. I think there are going to be marginal improvements in some areas, and I think there are reasonable policies that have been put forward by the Labour Party. But even in the context of that, I don't trust that Keir Starmer will actually necessarily follow through with that, given that he campaigned on the quote-unquote ethical argument for socialism and is now basically doing a kind of modern Thatcherism, for want of a better phrase, really. I don't trust that he's going to go forward with those things. He said he's going to get rid of the non-Tom tax status and has watered that down. He was originally going to get rid of the charitable status on private schools, but he's now just going to put VAT on them. Like, every aspect of his policy platform is negotiable, and that doesn't lead me to have trust enough to want to make him Prime Minister.
But I would say to that he has maybe not gone as far as you'd like, but at least he is doing something. He's seeing the problem and he is looking, how can we fix this problem, or even work towards fixing this problem? And one of the problems that one of the things that I said on when I was talking with MTG was, I would rather have a Starmer government where I get 40% of what I want than continue with the Tory government where I get nothing.
Yeah.
And 40% of something is far better than nothing at all.
Well, that's definitely true, and I'll quibble about the 40% in just a second. But just to kind of clarify, when I say why should I vote for the Labour Party, I'm not suggesting that a Tory party is going to be better, and I will certainly take a great deal of glee on election night watching Jacob Rees-Mogg or whoever standing solemnly in a sports hall in whatever little bumpkin part of the world they're from, losing and being sad. That, for me, will give me an enormous sense of schadenfreude. I will enjoy it at 4 a.m, because that's, that'll be beautiful. But being replaced by, in some cases, red Tories like Kristi and Wakeford or whatever, I don't see as necessarily an entirely better thing. And even if you say 40%, let's say he's offering you 40% change now, how do you know that A, he won't go back on that, given that he's flip-flopped on a number of policy pledges over the course of his both leadership election and now today, and the fact that we know in government things aren't always going to be perfect. He's literally, one of the core arguments they make is that the Tories have left us in such a parlous state that we don't know what we're going to be able to achieve necessarily. Right?
Well, they're right in that regard.
And that's certainly, there's an element of truth to that. So how do we know that they won't fall back on that as an excuse to not do the things in the 40% that you would want them to do?
Okay, let's look at one issue here, and I think it's free school lunches. Free school lunches. That's a perfectly good thing to look at.
Yeah.
Because when we see that helps kids who parents who might be from a sort of a lower income background, makes them not their parents don't have to sort of worry about sort of feeding their kids, that they all know that they're going to get a good school meal. Now Starmer said he's not going to commit to that, but he has said he's going to commit to breakfast clubs and specifically put money into breakfast clubs. And when you look at the data from even up here from the Coalfields Trust, who did a fantastic report a couple of years ago, breakfast clubs do actually far more work when it comes to helping low-income backgrounds or kids from low-income backgrounds than actual free school meals.
Right. Okay, and that's...
So is that not good?
No, that's good, but I don't know why you can't also commit to free school meals. The amount of expenditure isn't so exorbitant that would be impossible. It's about seemingly priorities, right? He's not offering any kind of systemic change at all. He's tinkering at the edges mostly, and that's sort of my problem, is that if he's when he's trying to win our votes, if all he's doing is offering tinkering at the edges, I don't see that he's going to... No government that gets in ever implements 100% of their manifesto or 100% of their pledges, because you kind of can't really. It's it's a give and take. Democracy is what it is. If all he's offering now, when he needs us, he needs the votes of people, is tinkering at the edges, what's he actually going to achieve at the end of the day? What is he going to actually push through? He's given up on so much. He's ceded so much ground to the point where he's now essentially following kind of Tory diktat in a way. Like, to completely change the topic of government to foreign policy.
So what domestic Tory policy is he following then?
Oh, I was just going to say, in terms of domestic, we'll get back to that in just a second. But with the Palestine thing, David Cameron came out and called for a ceasefire. And then, pardon?
Did you see his comment today?
About what?
He's committing to a sustained ceasefire.
Yeah, no, exactly. But the point is, David Cameron made that pledge first, and then the next day, Keir Starmer comes out and does the same thing. So he's essentially being outflanked to the left by David Cameron, the guy who bombed Syria and Libya. Like, that doesn't speak of a guy who's got a real grounding in any kind of political
people like you
agenda.
You want him to be on that position. Now he's on that position, and now that's a problem.
It's not that it's a problem. It's that he's reacting in a kind of, well, the Tories have done it, so I'll do it kind of way. Like, a principled person would have been for this for quite some time, I think, because it's such an awful situation. And, literally, the UN have voted for it several times, and he's always said, no, Israel has a right to defend itself, and just gone down that line until the government change, and then he instantly changes as well. So it's not that he adopts that position that's bad, it's the way in which it was adopted that gives you an impression that this man can't be trusted.
I think you can trust him on things, and like I say, when he gets in and you get in, you're going to have a manifesto,
Yeah,
and you will be able to judge Keir Starmer on his manifesto, and when he's in government and when he fulfills on those manifesto promises. And one of the other arguments they had on against MGT was, when we are in government, we can then work within the party to then affect change, because that's how every single big movement throughout history, even something like the NHS, didn't just happen overnight. It was a constant, sustained movement that was developed for the past sort of 30 years before it finally got passed under that sort of Labour government after the Second World War. In fact, the Second World War accelerated the passing of the NHS in many ways. But I think I am, and I am very, very hopeful. I mean, one thing I definitely recommend a lot of people to do is Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell did an interview with Angela Rayner today that just dropped. Okay. That's actually incredible. That is so. It's so good to see that Angela Rayner is going to be at the heart of certainly the next Labour government, and she's going to fight a battle to certainly improve workers' people's lives. She's talked constantly about in that interview about what she wants to do, and especially sort of not being afraid to sort of fight for that. You've got Ed Miliband, who is quite progressive on a lot of things. Rachel Reeves, going to be the greenest chancellor we've ever had.
I mean, okay, but I mean, you've also got like Wes Streeting, who has, I mean, frankly, opened up the gates to more privatisation within the NHS, which it seems like the opposite of what we would want, I think.
Well, it depends what he's going to change, because he's going to change the contracts back to the NHS having more power, which is what one of the first things David Cameron did when he took power originally. So making sure that the NHS is back in control, and that if a company isn't sort of fulfilling its obligations, that the NHS can get rid of them, that they then can't turn around and then sort of sue the NHS, as we saw Richard Branson do on I think twice. I think he sued the NHS for sort of basically set them going to him, you haven't fulfilled your contract, and then going, what? No, we have. And then he ended up suing the NHS.
Yeah.
So ultimately, and especially when you go back to the last Labour government as well, there were private companies working with the NHS. I've got not a problem with the private with private companies working within the NHS. What I think should happen is always make sure that the NHS has the power and that they are the ones in control, and that if the company is not fulfilling on its wishes, if it's not fulfilling its obligations, if it is not value for money, then the NHS can turn around. You are not fulfilling public good.
True, but he's gone beyond just that, and I agree. I think that not allowing these companies to sue, or certainly reducing their ability to sue, is a very good idea. But he's talked about an increased role for the private sector within the NHS, which again, like I kind of do have an opposition to private health care companies in general being involved, but if we're going to have them involved, I'd prefer it to be a very limited role, whereas he sees it as a far more expansive thing, where essentially it seems going down the kind of more Tory line of seeing it more as the government being a sort of allotting money to private companies in order to take care of public need, which essentially is just adding a middleman and doing privatisation via the back door.
And if it helps to get NHS waiting lists down,
okay. But it's introducing privatisation by the back door.
And public money is being spent for public good. And hey, if it goes to a private company and they make sure that, I don't know, Bob can make sure he gets his cancer treatment sooner than he would have.
Right, but you're acting as if that's the only way that this can be done. It's you are right. I certainly would like to see sort of the NHS be 100%
sort of, public. But sometimes I think the reality is at the moment, maybe you can't drag it back to being 100% public. We've got a massive worker shortage. One of the reasons why we have that is a massive, underfunding for over the past 13 years. And if you look where most of the NHS staff have gone, from nurses, doctors, to other types of sort of specialities with the NHS, they've gone to the private sector.
Okay, but if you remove the private sector, they have no choice but to come back to the public sector.
I don't think it's fully fair to move it entirely. I always think there is probably going to be some place for a private sector sort of healthcare. Like it or not, money talks, and someone will sort of pay for that. I think dragging it maybe fully back to 100%, sort of nationally owned, I think currently, probably at the moment, it's sort of impossible. But I think maybe sort of pulling it back on that way. I don't necessarily agree with everything Wes Streeting says about the NHS on it, but I do agree with some of the stuff he said about sort of changing the power in the NHS contracts.
See, this is part of the problem I have with, I suppose, Starmerite politics, if you want to call it that. It's dream. It's not even just not dream big. It's dream as small as possible. It's like nothing can really get that much better, so let's just manage the decline. Is essentially the kind of core principle, and I'm not voting for that. Even if it's the most practical thing, even if we are in a situation of terminal decline and we're just managing that decline, I'm not voting for that. Even if it's true, I'm not fucking voting for that.
But you're talking about a managed decline. I'm saying if you vote Labour, things are going to get better.
I'm not sure that under Keir Starmer they will get that much better. Again, I think he'll tinker at the edges. I think there are some good plans, some good policies there, but even those I don't trust him to actually fulfil on, given that he's, even before the pressures of government are there,
all that.
Even when
it works, we see NHS waiting lists going down, we see child poverty start to go down, we see more people in work.
Well, that's under Gordon Brown.
Regrow again.
That was under Gordon Brown. I don't trust that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling. I don't think they have the same social conscience.
And what if they do, and they do turn things around?
Oh well, if they do, you are happy. I give you the open invitation now to come back on and say I told you so, and do a little dance and make fun of me. That's absolutely fine. You will have earned it. But I don't know that we can just go on a whim and say, well, what about if they do? Because what they're planning to do now, like I say, they need and want our votes. So they have every reason in the world to offer us a better deal than they might be able to get. And B, without the pressures of actual governance. So you can kind of make claims that you can't necessarily fulfill on, because again, you're trying to win votes. So if he's just giving us the bare minimum now, if he's just giving us tinkering at the edges now, what the hell is going to come out at the end of that process? Probably even less than just tinkering at the edges.
Well, this is where I believe that the next parliament is going to be sort of overly progressive. I do generally believe that we are going to have a lot more progressive parliament, and I think you will see a lot more progressive things be pushed. I think you will see a lot more progressive policies.
Well, one would certainly hope so. If you go from a 90 or 80 whatever majority Tory government, Tory parliament to like I saw one poll that had the Labour Party over a 200 majority, which I think that's probably a little excessive. But let's say a 3-digit majority Labour Parliament, it should be more progressive. That shouldn't be as surprising. That it absolutely should be.
That it will be infinitely more progressive.
True. And this is actually part of the problem. When you talk about progressive, and again, I know you said earlier that trans issues aren't necessarily your forte, but I saw that Keir Starmer said that he supported the government's weird transphobic shittery about advice in schools yesterday, I should say. And you think, well, I mean, how are you any better on that then? If you're just going to push the same culture war bullshit, are you better? What is this?
Well, this is again where I think the left is sort of failing, because where's the left-wing movement to get more trans people elected into office? Where's them getting into sort of like local offices? I don't see that.
Okay, but why should it?
Disadvantage. Because you've got more people from those backgrounds into office, into Parliament,
Right.
I think you would see a lot more of those issues brought up from people who have those sort of lived
But why?
experiences, and I think that would be a better thing for sort of trans people in the UK as a whole.
Well, I think that's I agree that I think people having a movement for trans people to get elected to these positions would be really good. But why do you need trans people in those positions to even have a reasonable policy take on this? Like, you don't. I wouldn't expect white members of parliament to not understand that having racist legislation is bad, even though they're white and they would be the beneficiaries potentially of that. So the fact that cis members of parliament are not, well, I think there's one Tory who's a trans person, isn't there? I think. But anyway, regardless, let's say 100%, roughly speaking, of all parliamentarians ever have been cis. But I wouldn't expect them to not understand that passing trans legislation or having trans guidelines in this instance is a bad thing. You shouldn't need to come from that community to be able to have a reasonable take on that.
No, I agree with you on that, and that's where again you need the movements, and there is sort of the trans movement in the UK that is pushing for these changes.
Yeah.
But like I say, other than that, like I say, it's not ultimately my wheelhouse, but I know it's I know it's happening. I know it's there. But regardless of what happens when we go into sort of the next parliament, you will need more of these sort of movements to sort of created and sort of push for more policy, because if you're not pushing for more policy from within or even from with outside of like the Labour Party as well.
Yeah, but part of the problem you have with that as well is even if you do have a movement to get more trans people as like candidates, the Labour Party central office has been imposing candidates and has been, let's say, tipping the scale in certain people's favours in various races up and down the country. So actually, I don't know that you can necessarily guarantee that would massively improve the numbers, because I think the Labour Party under Keir Starmer has been more than happy to tip a cap and nod and wink towards transphobic shitters like Rosie Duffield in their own party, in order to not lose the kind of weird turf vote. And so I don't think they would allow many trans candidates through the net anyway.
Then this is why you need a movement to do that.
Okay.
If it's not there.
Okay, I mean, I agree. I'd like to see far more trans people in Parliament and in councils and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
from an outsider's perspective?
Please
do. You guys can have a bit of a break and then come back for round two. Ding, ding, ding. All right. So I don't have, I don't live in the UK, but obviously a lot of people that I care about do. So listening to you both has been very interesting. And Mr. BowlerHat, I have some sympathies for your position because I feel like in some,
Can I just say, hang on, Mr. BowlerHat? That's not
is that
his
what
name.
his name was? Oh, what was it?
BowlerHatMan.
Okay.
It's not called Mr. B Man. What?
I heard it twice. Do you have one? Sorry, I didn't see. I didn't want to say his name. So.
Is that?
Yes, there we go.
His name's Bowler David Mann. Yes, go on.
Bowler David Mann. Yes. So as I also come from a two-party system, and as a consequence, I have to vote for the Democrats because otherwise you get the Republicans. And so I end up taking a lot of fire because I don't agree with every Democrat, but I stand with the Democratic Party because I have a better chance of getting the policies I want with Democrats in power and not seeing harmful legislation passed when Democrats are in power. So, and also I had a question. So for you, Kevin, you live in a safe Labour seat?
Safe-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly the next election they'll piss it, yeah.
Right, because they're going to have a bunch of people flooding to vote Labour. So yours is more of a protest vote. Now, if someone lived in a Labour conservative district, with Labour being by far, like Lib Dems are very far behind, I think you'd be practical enough to say, fuck the Tories, and vote for whatever party would keep the Tories out in that seat.
Probably. And again, I wouldn't argue that everyone around the country ought not to vote for Labour. I think there are many very good Labour MPs, and if you live in those people's areas, that's absolutely fine.
Support your MP. Yeah. So there's a little more nuance. I mean, the U.S. it's Democrat or Republican, right?
Yeah.
So you all have more nuance.
I have a lot of sympathy for that. You do live in a very, very two-party state.
Yeah.
So I do take a lot of sympathy for your position that you are in. But I'd like to ask you a question, Kristi, because I didn't really know you were going to be here.
Oh, and it's Kristi. So
sorry, Kristi. Equal. Sorry, yeah, sorry. I have had a fair amount to do.
No. So many people in Britain called me Kristi. It was like my secret agent name. Kristi.
I'm interested. What do you think to the new book, The Squad, where AOC has complained against other lefties who have been angry at her and taken credit for what she feels achievements she has made in sort of the fight for various policies in America?
I'm not familiar with it, but in terms of The Squad, I think that you do need active progressive voices within the Democratic Party. Too often we hear from the centrist Democrats, and we don't have a vibrant progressive wing. And so, and as long as, to go back to Nancy Pelosi, diversity is our strength, but unity is our power. And why diversity is our strength is because it gets people who live in certain bubbles to actually meet people from other parts of life and see lived experiences and understand where people are coming from. And so by bringing that diversity to a conversation, you bring America to that conversation, and you can create better policies that reach and connect with more people, not just one demographic. And so that is why diversity is our strength. And then you act with unity in order to pass the legislation to make those policies happen.
This is partly why I've sort of had the conversation with sort of MGTs, why I reached out to Kevin, and I'd love to have more conversations with people, on the UK left to sort of see what their perspective is on things in the Labour Party, in their sort of in their area, in their seats, to see what's going on and how we can sort of work together in some situations, or have a look at, well, if we think this is going to be sort of really important, then maybe that's what we campaign on. I'm really passionate about PR. I'm a member for Labour for PR as well. So I do a lot of campaigning to help try and get PR. And
that's proportional representation.
Yeah.
Not public relations.
It's not thick of it.
I mean, if you ever talk or you have a look at the old conversations from people who are like back in Labour for PR back in the day, after they lost the 2012 referendum.
Yeah, that was. Can I tell you? I have to interrupt on this because it goes back to my focus groups that I ran in 2010 when the proposal for the referendum was
we should
forward in the past.
We should explain. BowlerHatMan, Kristi's a political scientist. She's
in
the UK. You know about that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's Michael.
I've only been watching her since when she's watching.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you.
We've got an old frog in chat. Let's go.
Yeah. But so one of the parts of the focus group was we asked people what their impressions were of the AV referendum after the government had been elected, and that was one of the Lib Dem pledges that was promised to come up. And one of the guys in the focus group said, I just think the confused mind says no. And some of these alternative ways of voting are really complicated. And if people will just sort of say, I don't necessarily like what we have, but I know how it works. And I was like, that was so prescient. Because I think that was exactly why, if people could have explained how PR was actually really simple with cartoons and fucking shit, right? Really basic stuff of examples, then it wouldn't be so scary. And it's a real shame that it didn't go that way.
Essentially, the kind of null position is no, right?
Yeah,
in any kind of referendum.
Status quo.
Yeah, the status quo it will win unless you can overcome that status quo kind of bias. Yeah, I think we saw that in Scotland. I think a lot of more people in Scotland would have voted for independence if they'd been able to be convinced by it, but they just went, well, let's play it safe, and voted to keep things how they understood it,
Yeah. But if I could get back, sorry, if you wanted to finish, Bowler, can I just call you Bowler? I'll jump back in.
Especially under, as you said, under PR, Labour for PR have been, since that, they were laughed at originally, saying you'll never get, local central labor, Labour parties for the CLPs to sort of back you, to sort of get it to a to a vote at the assembly at the conference. If you do, it'll never pass. They've got over like 300 plus CLPs at this point supporting it. They've started a new campaign called Councils for PR to get councils to pass these things. They do a lot of outreach to sort of tell people this is what PR is. This is how good it would be. This is the different types of PR we could have. And as you said, teaching people, I think outreach is also really important, because that's another thing I don't see as well. And I think in our original conversations, I said, I think the left needs to talk more about business, because I don't see the left talk about business a lot, but they'll talk about workers' rights, but they'll not, when it comes to sort of business and business people, they cede all that ground to the right. And that's why you don't get big business people supporting left-wing causes or left-wing parties, because they don't talk about business, because they feed all right. And I think that's
how do you what argument would you make to a business person that paying their workers more would be good for them?
Well, I do know a company that does that already. They're called Webmart. They're a very, very good company. In fact, the guy who owns it does a fantastic talk. It's online, about Marxist capitalism and sort of his philosophy of how he runs the company, that not only are workers who are rewarded for their work through not only good pay, but making sure that at the end of the year that the profit that they make as a company then gets shared to sort of their company. You've just seen Games Workshop this year gave, I think, a Christmas bonus of about, I think, £2,000 per employee. If you look at the retention rate in those companies, no one's leaving. And with good reason, because they enjoy where they work, they get good rewards, and they are better employees for it. And they reinvest their money into improving their employees, making them better. Apprenticeships could be a massive, massive win, I think, for the left, if they said, look, businesses, if you develop apprentices, not only do apprentices go on to sort of stay within your company for like 6 or 7 years, they become very loyal employees. If you sort of reward them, if you sort of train them more, you get someone who becomes a really good worker for your business. And yet it's maybe 1 or 2 years worth of them going through that training. But we don't see a lot of talk from the left about apprenticeships and how good apprenticeships could be for business, or again, rewarding people's sort of ethic. Or if you are a business, how and you are a left-wing government, how then do you encourage more people to start their own businesses? In South Yorkshire, Dan Jarvis, of all people, like the guy who was often described as the ultimate challenger to Corbyn, the successor to Blair, when he was mayor of South Yorkshire, he started up a unit that's the only one in the country that's helped set up businesses as worker cooperatives, or helps businesses transition into worker cooperatives.
Okay,
it's the only one in the country.
But you've talked a lot of words there, and none of them were the one word that capitalists actually care about, which is profit. That they would only be interested in, does this allow me to make more money than I was previously making? Or at least, does it not hurt the amount of money I am making?
But they will. They will become a lot more successful business, and they'll earn more money.
I've yet to see that. Staff retention alone does not make a company successful financially. It helps, sure, it helps, but it's not. I don't think that's the bottom line. Is literally all they care about. And you say seed the ground. I don't know how we can unseed the ground, if that makes sense, or take back that ground, when literally the only thing they care about is literally making money, which is one of the problems I see with the society we live in, is that it's focused around solely making money at the expense of people.
Leftists shouldn't be afraid to talk about business or issues that are important to sort of, business people.
Or self-employed people.
Yeah, or so even self-employed people.
Like you're self-employed, Kevin, right?
Well, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, technically.
Exactly. It's. I feel that this whole area is just ceded completely to the right because the left doesn't feel that they can talk about it, or they're equipped to talk about it. Because if you said, "Oh, well, they're all capitalists," but how many business owners have you ever spoken to that, like, might vote left wing, or are Labour voters themselves?
Not many, but I mean, maybe there are some. I don't know.
And this is it. You need to get more people. When you go out to campaign, sometimes these are the people who have a lot more money in their pockets. And hey, if someone's going to give £1,000 to sort of left wing causes,
well, that would be awesome. But again,
George Soros.
Fundamentally, I just don't see. I don't see business owners, like maybe self-employed people or very small business owners. But once you get past that stage, I don't see that business owners have a financial interest in giving a shit about left-wing causes by and large.
I would say what size? Because if you look at the UK at the moment, business-wise, 80% of the UK business infrastructure is aimed at SMEs. Right. That's small, medium enterprises. And that is...
But even that has a reasonable range within it, though, yeah.
Yeah, and it's 100 to 500 people.
Yeah.
So that's a range. We're not talking about big multinational companies like Amazon. It could be you see a business unit down the road, and in that business unit there might be 5 or different 10 businesses, all with various different sizes and different levels. What is the left saying to them? And it unfortunately tends to be, as you said, very from I think a very socialist dogma of you're capitalists, you're not going to give to us. But I feel there's a lot of ground that maybe we're ceding to the right on that issue, and it.
Okay, well, what would you say to them then?
So I would say to a lot of these people, when you look at how the current Conservative Party has acted, that there is no industrial plan. So there is no industrial plan to say how a government is going to support businesses, maybe some key critical businesses like the steel industry. I'm a big believer in decarbonizing the steel industry, but in order to do that, the steel industry needs like 20 to 25 years worth of support to be able to complete that transition. It's going to be a very long-term process. It's going to take a lot of money, but at the end of it, the UK will be one of the first countries in the world. I think Sweden's probably going to beat us to it by the looks of it at the moment, but we would probably be like one of the first countries in the world to make carbon neutral steel. Right. And that will be good for the environment. It will be good because you will have these steel industries that are, again, producing the steel. You then get businesses around the steel industry that will then use that steel. Those tend to be the more SMEs. Those SMEs will then use that steel to sort of help create sort of other jobs, build new houses, build things like the HS2 track that we should have. There's a ton of stuff that we should be saying, and I feel like on the left we're not. I think it's a massive opportunity the left is really missing.
Okay, I mean that's interesting. I think that's something I could ruminate on further and try and grasp. Again, I
still hadn't finished my actual point from before.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
So I felt like there was a natural pause there. So, all right. So looking at it again from the outside, it's going to be if it's not the Tories, it's most likely going to be Labour, right? Just on a practical level.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how do you get the Labour Party you want, right? And so I think one of the pressures that Labour is going to face is I don't think they're making up that much ground in Scotland. The SNP is still going to return a lot of MPs.
Yeah.
That will push them to the left. And if the Tories get decimated, that does provide more openings for potentially, definitely more left than Tory right liberal Democrats to come in. And you could actually see Labor getting pushed by these other parties. Greens might pick up some seats, perhaps, and get some of that push. Also, that kind of majority will allow Labor to do more things. If they don't have to squeeze by every vote and worry about the next by-election, taking a seat away, then that should open him up. Because I think that,
well, yeah,
okay, wait, let me just finish. All right, I know that there's a lot of positions that Starmer is shit on. All right, so I also know that geographically, Labour is just at a seat disadvantage. Right, because most of the population live in England, and that's where the Tories' base is. They aren't spread out all over the way that Labour has been historically. And so you've always seen, I think, look, Tony Blair moved to the right in order to get votes in England to get power. And I think Keir Starmer sounds to be doing the same thing, which he's trying, because this is what, when you have a median voter theory, you have to find that sweet spot of right enough to not alienate too many people on the right and not too far right enough to alienate too many people on the left, which means the edges get alienated. And so the issue should be supporting MPs for the Labour Party that will press those issues, and hopefully the ones that are shit have an alternative or closer three-way marginal where your swing vote could make a difference and put a more progressive person in. But I think the larger issues on the things like the NHS and industry and all of this is that Britain is in a contracting economy as a consequence of Brexit. And that means that you can't look outwards necessarily. Trade deals won't save Britain's economy.
No, the sunlit uplands. The grass is greener.
Unicorns.
So that actually means investing domestically, investing in industrialization, investing in the railroads, investing in broadband access, whatever else, because Britain is going to have to be its own engine. And that means investing in the people. And I think that is something that could, because there is a point. Labour being a Labour Party, it comes from an oppositional place when it comes to the bourgeoisie. But there are other models. Works councils in Germany have not as a contentious relationship as happens in the US and in Britain. Sweden has an incredibly powerful, right? The Nordic countries have incredibly powerful unions, and businesses just deal with it. And they're profitable. So there are other models that can be put out there. I understand the discourse, like in the US, is oppositional rather than cooperative. But if Labour can talk about when you have ideas from your employees, and they come, if you provide them a space where they feel like they are going to benefit from giving advice and making the company a better place, more efficient, more productive, more profitable, and it doesn't just get taken up and given to the shareholders, but they see a part of that, then everybody grows. Right. But are you probably going to end up with some red, kind of a red Tory, red Tories? From your perspective, probably. Is it going to be much less harmful to people? Yeah. Is that good enough? No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
much like the Democrats. Much like the Democrats.
To tackle the point you made earlier about him having a big majority, and that meaning you can do more progressive things. In theory, that sounds nice, but in practicality, it means he's basically untouchable and can do whatever he likes. He essentially becomes a sort of dictator. Not literally in the sense that he was elected, but like he can do what he wants, knowing he's got 100 MPs, so he's not going to lose fucking 50 plus of them. So he can do basically what he likes. He can be as right-wing or as left-wing as he likes, and it'll be fine. And his natural inclination does appear to be moving to the right. He doesn't appear like he's going to pivot back and move left. And this is the point I'd actually like to kind of ask BowlerHatMan about. Not to sideline you, Kristi, you can come in whenever you like. But what is the kind of strategy for, if he gets in, moving him to the left? How do you see that? What's the practical function? How does that work? How are you going to move him over?
So this is almost where we left off with MGT, and I said, how do we affect Labour? You build movements within the Labour Party, and you go to the Labour Party, you work within the Labour Party, and you affect change. You put forward policy ideas, and you have to keep working. And it's not easy. it's not easy to sort of do this. And sometimes I really do feel that the left just gives up too easily sometimes.
To be fair, they have taken great glee in purging people they refer to as trots from the party.
Well, even then, they can still work from outside the party to sort of form movements. It's not impossible to do. On the Labour Social, there's Josh, who works with Movement Forward, and he knows many other people who are so like him, trying to sort of build movements within the Labour Party, meet with them, and affect sort of Labour policy.
Could you put me in touch with this person by any chance?
With Josh?
Because that sounds kind of interesting, yeah.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, I'm sure Josh would sort of love to do that. It's what he does anyway. So yeah. But no, I'll pass it on. But yeah, this is the type of thing that we need to do, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very hard, and I often feel like the left goes, it is too impossible to affect change. I'm not going to bother. And I honestly feel like that is somehow
that
often feels.
Yeah, no, and I agree that's not productive. But given the experience that the left has just undergone, where we did have a leftist leader of sorts in Jeremy Corbyn in position, who put forward a policy platform that was pretty popular actually, if you look at some of the polling. And was savaged by the establishment in such a brutal fashion, and then replaced by this guy who promised much of the same sort of policy-wise, and then has gone back on it all, and now it appears to be essentially there's not that much difference, unfortunately, between the two major parties. It's understandable why the left would be, I mean, the internet phrase is black-pilled, but let's just say depressed, upset, have a feeling of it being sort of worthless. It's a kind of nihilistic feeling, and I understand that. There's a part of me that feels the same way. I haven't given up, but I still think that it's understandable why the left would feel completely dejected and alienated from the process.
Exactly. My response to people who sort of feel like that is, that's politics. You know, you do not win every battle. You've got to get back on your horse and you've got to start fighting again. We talked about Labour for PR. Yeah. After they lost that referendum, they said you will never get anywhere. They were laughed at, they were cajoled, and yet they have got it. It has been voted on by at the last sort of Labour Party conference to adopt PR, and they have said we are going to do that again and again and again.
True, but there's
the council for the PR movement.
True, so, but does passing it at the Labour conference doesn't mean that the party will adopt it as a policy?
But if you're going to make the Labour Party listen, what's the best way to do it?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing, true, but having it passed at conference...
bear in mind, it's taken them 10 years. Yeah. 10 years to build up this movement.
True. How did you, by the way, going back briefly...
Can I just interject before you...
Oh yeah, go on.
Just to say that, on that point... you can have those conversations with your colleagues at those conferences when their government is in power, and that's where you change minds, right? And that's where you change the rhetoric, because you can't have those conversations at the opposition party's conference platform. They won't listen to you. So I do think it's better to have, especially if you can say, look, I've voted for you. In the US, you can say, I give you money. You can't really say that here. Well, some people can. But they're very rich people. And trying to make that link between your vote is tied to this position on not, like narking out kids who want to use different pronouns. Yeah. Like, we need to change that policy. We need to change it now.
The other thing
No, go on, BowlerHatMan.
So the other thing I would point out is bad movement building. So you saw at the Labour conference the guy who glitter bombed Keir Starmer and said, "Oh, we're in a democratic catastrophe," or something like that. That was a PR campaign movement, and there were people in the pro PR movement knew about this, that this was going to happen, and they were begging this movement, please do not do this, because you will make the PR movement look foolish, you'll make us look silly. And that type of protesting, while it might grab a headline, is it going to advance the movement? And it
True,
is
but the way
how you can do that and how sort of protesting sort of effectively, because as much as I agree with organizations like Just Stop Oil, I do agree. Have they really been effective, and have they moved? Have they moved policy? Have they changed, hearts and minds on position?
Firstly,
they have.
Firstly,
which is a bit disappointing to be honest.
I kind of agree with the glitter bombing thing, but it was hilarious. So I did laugh. I'll be entirely honest. And secondly, in terms of Just Stop Oil, I think they have been effective. Not that they've necessarily brought about a massive change, because I don't think that's a thing they're even trying to do at this point. They're trying to get public opinion. They're trying to affect dialogue amongst the political discussion, and I think they definitely have done that. This is part of the problem. People forget that protest is sort of supposed to be disruptive to some extent, and that when people say you should protest in X, Y, and Z ways and not this other way, what they basically mean is do it in a way that gets no headlines and affects no real discussion. Whereas Just Stop Oil, for all of the seemingly negative attention that some of their stunts get, it gets talked about. You'll notice when they do much more quiet, peaceful protesting, that doesn't get talked about. The discussion is not about global warming or Just Stop Oil at all at that point. And so actually I think they're doing pretty interesting work in terms of bringing it into the political dialogue, into the political discussion. They're moving it onto the table. In some cases, quite literally, the snooker table with their orange powder. But they're making it the public aware of an issue that, frankly, has gone underserved for a long time.
And I would say, speaking to people in my community, it's not Just Stop Oil when they talk about issues of climate change or stuff that they are doing on shall we say the mean streets of Barnsley. It's more Greenpeace.
Yeah. Well, they're a much more well-established...
More of an impact.
Well, they're a much more well-established group, but they've done plenty of disruptive shit themselves. I mean, literally, they've committed crimes in being a hazard to shipping. Quite literally, they've stopped ships from going to places. So, like, the idea that disruptive... Yeah, go on, sorry.
But Greenpeace targets the problem makers. And I think that the other group, I can't remember the name.
Just Stop Oil.
Yeah. Are more clout chasing.
They
are.
Yeah.
And so, I guess I think people would have more empathy with Greenpeace's disruptive activism because they see it as being like almost like not vigilante justice. Yeah, vigilante justice. We'll call it that. Like fucking up the shipping companies or whaling companies or whatever that were doing shit. Like those are assholes. Yeah, it's wrong, but I don't feel like you actually kind of like, oh, Robin Hood. Whereas like if you just glue yourself to asphalt in the middle of the highest traffic flow, and then you back up traffic and you're just going to piss a lot of people off, and you're going to get talked about, but you don't get that sort of sympathy, as it were. Yeah.
But again,
that's what I think they've lost almost that public sort of support and sympathy. That's what I sort of see.
True, but I don't think Just Stop Oil give that much of a shit, or the individual should say, give that much of a shit about the public liking them specifically. It's putting the discussion of global warming and allied issues onto the forefront into a political discussion in a way that they haven't been for a very long time. And I don't think they care if they themselves are being hated. Like they'll do a stunt at an event and they'll get booed and locked up for a day or whatever and then move on. But they got the headlines they wanted it to, and people are
then discussing the right headline.
Yeah, but the thing is,
how do they get the right headline? I mean, what would be the appropriate way of going about this from your perspective? Then they put orange powder on the CEO of Shell or something? Like what?
I think if we look historically, all movements like these have a more moderate facing and a more radical facing section of it. when we had the suffrage movement, right? You had people chaining themselves to the gates of the palace, right? Putting fireworks or explosives in mailboxes and shit, right?
And disavow.
You know, and the more centrist feminists were saying to the more radical feminists, this is wrong, you're hurting our cause. And the radicals are like, fuck you, the system isn't changing fast enough and this is bullshit. So, I mean, this is an inevitable tension.
And then, interestingly, those moderates went on to join fascist movements.
Not all of them, I'm sure.
No, not all of them, but a great many of them did. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, there was more people who were centrist than were the leaders of the centrist movement. So I think you're maybe.
And then you had Emmeline Pankhurst, who was amazing. Had regular correspondence with both Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, and went and lived out her life in Ethiopia with Haile Selassie. Mental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, just a little tidbit for you.
Yeah. I do agree with you. It's it's different strikes for different protests, and I think. I don't see them having that effect, and when I'm having sort of conversations with other people in sort of the area that sort of I sort of go around, the conversation isn't, oh, aren't Just Stop Oil fantastic promoting this policy, or they're saying that we need to do this. It's, oh, I need to check tomorrow because Just Stop Oil have threatened to protest and I might not be able to get to work tomorrow.
Yeah, but again, this again, as going back to the point of that Kristi was making, every protest movement has had this. The suffragettes were called all manner of things and were denigrated. Civil rights activists in America were targeted as being evil. Nelson Mandela was called a terrorist by Margaret Thatcher. Like, this is not a new thing, and it's a thing that you just kind of have to put up with, I think, as an individual in a movement for a bigger historical change.
I mean, I don't know if it's a Hegelian dialectic, but the radicals agitate, right? And yes, they might get negative publicity, but they do get people talking. But you can't just have radicals, because radicals won't compromise to change the policies. And if you only had moderates, then they might get drowned out, or they might get pushed out, or they, like their conversation might die. But you need the moderates to talk to the people, or be the people in power, so that you can start moving toward those more radical ideas, which eventually, become just taken for common granted sense, like, women are human beings, or Black people and brown people are human beings with human rights. That would have been a radical notion 100 years ago. Right? So,
yeah.
We need both we need both sides, and we get irritated with both sides depending on where you sit. Like, you can also get pissed off with your own moderates or your own radicals. But I think that it's an inevitable part of social change.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Any final thoughts, BowlerHatMan? And I'll let you go. We've taken up quite enough of your time.
No, honestly, thank you for having me. I've generally been quite starstruck talking to both of you today.
Oh, yours is great. Thank you.
So it's really good, and like I say,
flattery will get you everywhere, I assure you.
I want to have like more of these conversations, especially with the people on the left, and have these conversations, because I think this is kind of important. To have these conversations, because then you sort of learn about more people's different sort of where they stand on things, what they want, what they find are sort of more important to them. So no, I think this conversation I think has been quite productive. So no, thank you for having me.
Yeah, if I could as well, like, when people with different shades of left come together, and like you said, trans issues aren't really in your wheelhouse, but if you hang out with people who really care about trans issues, you're going to learn more about it, and you're going to understand with empathy people's lived experiences, and then you become an ally, and then you become an advocate. So it is a good thing. We don't always have to agree on everything on the left to be agreeable, and also to be open to ways that we can expand our own allyship.
That's a nice way of putting that. I'd come back on in the build up to the election, and we'll see how things progress and how things have changed, and see if
we're gonna have 2 winter elections next year.
Oh, 3. Well, we don't know where we're gonna have the the by-election, because there are 2 upcoming by-elections. Obviously, we've got Peterbone, we've got Blackpool North. Miriam Cates, I don't know if you've heard, she's got into a spot of trouble.
Yes, yeah.
We don't know what it is, but we know she's in trouble.
Yeah. So, well, that's the thing. The Tories keep losing MPs because they're so corrupt and evil.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I really think like a reform of
sniffing a
government
poop.
would be a very popular labor position to prevent them from serving second jobs, to prevent them, forcing them to divest from companies, or to recuse themselves on any votes from which they would profit from or try to lobby on it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of...
You, me, and Alistair Campbell all agree on that.
Yeah.
Or just ban the Tory party.
It's shocking.
They're
It's
a danger.
absolutely
They're a
shocking.
danger to the public. They need to be stopped.
Really, they could look to Florida, weirdly, pre-run DeSantis for open records requests and just like putting things out and let the public see how their money is spent. It's not an unreasonable request for that kind of transparency.
One of the last things, just before I go, I'm a massive believer in reforming the House of Lords, because if you think for the past couple of years have been bad in like Westminster, it's like that all the time in the House of Lords.
Yeah.
The House of Lords has like a scandal a week. We need to reform the House of Lords.
The House of Lords
desperately.
is a fucking joke of a place. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
need like ethics with proper teeth.
Yeah.
You know, civil fines and shit. Yeah.
I mean, I've said replace it with sort of a house of like regional representation. So you might get Yorkshire, like you split all the region up into like different regions. So maybe like Yorkshire.
You get your PR model.
Yeah,
that's how you introduce PR.
Well, I've literally said this before. I don't know about
Senate.
I don't know about regional or how exactly you'd split it up, but essentially have a one of the advantages of the House of Lords, they say, is the continuation, that you get people who have been there in positions and they know, they have the experience to refine legislation.
Okay. I don't agree with that agreement at all.
Yeah,
okay, but I'm just saying, like, even
I know
if we're gonna like do a kind of compromise solution that might actually be workable, is to have essentially a list of lords or whatever they would be called in this new body that each party would publish beforehand, and so you'd know if they get 50% of the vote, their top 50% of their candidates would become members of this new chamber. And so you could have actual proportional representation, meaning that every single person's vote would count, and then you'd still have the potential for that continuation, blah blah blah. And even if we have to, we can still have the fucking Church of England bonds as well. I don't know what you could. It doesn't have to be exactly proportional representation, but you could introduce it into the system and reform the House of Lords and mean that chamber actually has a democratic legitimacy that it doesn't currently have.
Yeah. And very much supported in the Conservative Party as well, which is also very important if we're going to reform it.
Which is odd, because the Tory Party have been stacking that body for 300 fucking years, so it doesn't even make sense that they would want to reform it. But I'm glad they do. That's cool.
Yeah, it's insane when you sort of put this question to sort of Conservative voters: do you want to reform the House of Lords? The answer is always yes. I have never not seen a Conservative voter know that.
It's a throwback to a bygone era that should have been gone 200 years ago. It's an embarrassment. It's really, really sad. Like, I like what the Blair started that process with, getting rid of many of the life peers and all the rest of it. That's nice, but still, that process really needs to speed the fuck up. Because why are they there? We've elected a body to pass laws, and these dickheads are going to try and stop it. What the fuck? What?
Yes,
these. I mean, honestly, most of them go there and fall asleep and don't know what they're voting for.
And you've got supposedly, again, we must stress supposedly for legal reasons.
Yes.
Boris Johnson's love child.
Well, or just not allegedly at all, Boris Johnson's obvious Russian plant.
Yeah.
Or Michelle Mone, who is, let's say, unaffiliated at the moment.
To be honest, this whole thing with Michelle Mone is such an absolute gift to doing that. It's such an absolute gift. Honestly, it is.
It's so corrupt that even the claims she's made about the advice she got from her lawyers mean that her lawyers have lawyered up against her, which is honestly, that doesn't scream to me democracy. That doesn't scream to me like ethics and clean governance. But there we go. Anyway, thank you, BowlerHatMan. Everyone, go and check out BowlerHatMan's channel. Someone post it in the chat for me, please, because I forgot to. Anyway, Yeah.
And come check us out on the Labour Social as well, because we have Graham, we've got Phil, we have Josh on regularly, with Ali on as well from another sort of European stuff. We've got all sorts of different people that sort of come on there sort of now and again. So yeah, do come over there as well and sort of check us out as well.
Okay. Thank you for coming on, and Godspeed.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Cool. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
Bye.
and Merry Christmas as well.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.